do this live from Zoom.
Seems like it. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Streaming.
It says now I've got like another little box that's going along.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us a rundown? What is it that you actually do? Like in total layman's terms, I'm going to go and share this interview onto your personal profile while we said it would be as well.
Yeah. So I guess, you described it really well. So I'm always trying to get to the root cause of what is going on for people. So then if we find out the root cause, we can correct that most of the time, a lot of the time, and then the symptoms go away. So instead of just treating the symptoms and instead of just giving somebody a nutrition plan, I really dig a lot deeper than that. And I do that through the functional diagnostic testing that I do to get a better picture of what's going on.
Sorry to interrupt. Today's, the reason we're doing this today is because there's so much conversation going on around peri-menopause being that section of your life before you enter menopause. I mean, that's the only way that I know how to explain it. But, it's like this new fashionable thing that people are being diagnosed with, yet the symptoms have probably always been there. So what would you say to people that are listening that have got peri-menopause? What are you hoping for them to get out of this information today, Mel?
I hope that they realize women in their 40s, yes, their hormones are changing. It's not uncommon to get symptoms, but a lot of the time we're not sure why we're getting those symptoms once we're in our 40s. So they'll go to the doctor and they'll be like, oh, you're just at that stage of life where things are changing. And the doctor might suggest going on the oral contraceptive pill in their 40s or having surgery if some of these symptoms are really bad. So I would just like people to know that there's other options than going down the medical pathway. Sometimes you do have to go down that pathway for symptom relief, but a lot of the time we can manage things through lifestyle, nutrition, supplements.
I found your page on Facebook. It's very
okay,
exciting. Cool. What would be some of the symptoms that people are, I guess, experiencing? And it's funny, the more I talk to Mel about this, because I've been a personal trainer for 20 years as well, is that I start going, oh yes, I have that. I have that. Ashamedly, I have that too. So guys, I'm like partly doing this as well because I'm very interested in it, which is the reason that you should interview people really in the first place. But there's also a lot of misconceptions that, like you said, you might need to go to the doctor and get on a contraceptive pill again. So if people, I guess, don't want to do those things, what are maybe the beginning symptoms? Is there an age that this kind of stuff actually happens, or is it different for everybody?
It is different for everyone, and everyone has varying symptoms. Some people don't get any symptoms at all, and they glide through the transition and they don't even realize, and then they haven't had a period for 12 months and they've gone through menopause. They're the lucky ones. The people that I see are symptomatic and they have things like anxiety or changes to their period that they haven't had before. So their period might have been really regular for their whole life. They hit their 40s and then all of a sudden they're having irregular periods or they're having heavier periods. They're gaining weight and they haven't changed anything at all. They might be having low moods or really bad PMT that they never used to have. Or any symptom that they did have just might be accentuated there now that they're in their 40s. They could also have low libido, like they just don't feel like having sex anymore. And the one that most people complain of more in their late 40s is hot flushes and insomnia. Yeah.
Are there any other reasons that people are like not wanting to have sex? I wrote a blog post about that a couple of years ago and can't remember what it was related to, but gee, it got a lot of people replied back and corrected what I was talking about. Aren't there a lot of other reasons why people don't want to? Could we just blame it on peri-menopause?
Oh no, there's so many layers to that. Responsive as they were in our younger years. So progesterone starts declining, and that's because we're not necessarily ovulating every month like we were in our fertile years. So we're not producing as much progesterone. And then estrogen is like the naughty child, and it's all over the place. It's up and it's down, and it's up and it's down, and it can be higher than what you've ever had estrogen before. So that's where we can get estrogen dominance
Sorry, I'm just laughing. I mean, would the real world symptom to that be more bitch face?
More the craziness. Yeah, the craziness and the up and down moodiness. Like not feeling like you kind of be out of control with your feelings and your emotions as well. And like, oh, I know like I'm acting like, you know, maybe emotional, but I can't help it at the moment. And that is because estrogen is up and down like this. Like one of the hormones called follicle stimulating hormone is knocking on our ovaries doors saying, wake up, produce more estrogen, and our ovaries aren't responding. So then we get high circulating estrogen in our blood. And then we can get, you know, those feelings of really high estrogen dominance, and then it can just drop down within the same cycle. So it is a bit all over the place, but we can manage it.
Do you know what I've noticed on a personal note? Not that everyone wants to hear about my menstrual cycle, but it's just so it is so relevant and it's real. Obviously, this is what we're both interested in, to be honest, isn't it? It's that age. Is I can feel the whole cycle the day that ovulation occurs, because more of the crazy eyes, my partner calls them, come the day before I'm ovulating, as if it's like a period day. What's that?
When you're ovulating?
Yeah, it's like the day before ovulation, the hormones tend to do the same thing that they're doing 2 days before I would usually get my cycle. I'm trying to use enough words before I'd actually get the period.
Yeah, so your estrogen is at its highest just before you ovulate. So then you're getting, if you've already got high estrogen, then you'll become more estrogen dominant just before you ovulate. And that's where I always ask people, how are you around ovulation? And a lot of the time they're like, I have actually noticed things like sore boobs or a bit moody around ovulation where I never used to. So the problem is our livers are not clearing estrogen like it used to. Our livers are normally more stressed out in our 40s because of environmental toxins and pesticides and chemicals and drugs and hormones. So it's really important for our liver to clear out estrogen so we don't get those estrogen dominant symptoms.
Ah, okay. So that's what you mean when you're talking about the detoxification process gets cleaned up or addressed or something to eliminate the estrogen, because that's what's making you feel crazier.
Yeah, the liver's not detoxing, metabolizing estrogen like it used to. So then it recirculates in through our body and we get higher and higher and higher estrogen. And then progesterone is dropping out. So we've got the imbalance between estrogen and progesterone. And when we have that imbalance, that's when we get the big symptoms, the yucky feeling, the craziness, the not feeling right.
So what are, I guess, the first steps that, without somebody needing to come and see you, what are some things that they could do, I guess, to figure out that this is what's going on and in a way help themselves? I'm always about, what can people do without needing consultation, even though they should see you because it would just figure it out faster. By the way, guys, she's got a VIP 12-week course on perimenopause and handling everything that we'll tell you about. But if you don't get to the end of this video, because we don't know when it's going to end, then just comment below or message Mel on her page and she can tell you about it.
Yeah, I always think just go back to basics. Like if you're symptomatic, go back to basics. If things are still happening, then come and see somebody like myself and we might need to do certain testing to really figure out what's going on. But so basics are sleep, get your sleep really dialed in. Don't be on screens at night. Go to bed at least 2 hours before midnight. And then nutrition, get your nutrition dialed in. Unfortunately, we can't afford to eat like we used to. We become more insulin resistant, which means we're more likely to put on weight in our 40s because estrogen is dropping down and estrogen is an insulin sensitizer. So we really need to be pretty clean with our diet. And there's lots of research supporting that a lower carbohydrate diet in perimenopause is beneficial.
It's beneficial at all ages, isn't it? Anyway.
It is.
But we're not saying that you can't eat pasta and that you can't have champagne because...
And I'm not necessarily saying eat keto as well. I don't necessarily agree with that. It's just eating a Losing the refined carbohydrates, so your pastas, your breads, your biscuits, and your cakes. Not no carbs at all. I feel like we do need carbohydrates, just in the form of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, do you know what? And I also used to I was putting it down to, well, I just need more muscle tissue, because I know if I have more muscle tissue on my body and look more like a bodybuilder, then I've got more insulin receptor sites. Guys, if you're not controlling your blood sugar, so that's what we're saying when we're talking about insulin, then you feel maybe high and then low, like having a coffee and then wanting to fall asleep.
Yeah.
It might be this feeling, yes?
Or you eat and then you want to fall asleep. Or you haven't eaten for a few hours and you get that hangry. You can't handle not being able to eat for 4 hours. Then you've got a problem. Another really simple test to do is get naked, jump in front of a mirror. If your belly is moving up and down, if you've got belly fat, then you've got some sort of insulin resistance going on.
Do you mean, could it also be called insulin sensitivity?
Well, insulin sensitivity is when your body's working well. So we're normally insulin sensitive when we're younger. It's when we're able to draw glucose into our cells and utilize that as energy. It's not circulating around. So we want to be more insulin sensitive, not insulin resistant.
Oh, okay. I just tag it as the word as you want to be able to control your insulin.
Yes.
And to not feel it.
Yeah, and the way that we do that is by eating a lower carbohydrate diet and not eating sugary foods. And also not eating all the time. So I'm a big proponent of some intermittent fasting if you don't have a thyroid condition and if you don't have anxiety. But some intermittent fasting is good. That will help regulate your blood sugar. And then having your meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and no snacking. Every time we snack, our blood glucose goes up and then our insulin goes up and it stays up here, and we don't want it to stay up there the whole time. We need time for our blood glucose to drop down and then we go into fat burning mode.
It's so individual though, isn't it? Because you said it could be this or it could be this or it could be this. And I mean, everybody assimilates nutrients differently anyway. One of the things that I was taught back in the PT days was, personal training days, was if you're going to have any carbs at all, have some saturated fat or make sure you have some protein with it as well, so that it doesn't have the same effect on your insulin levels, meaning you go up and then you come back down again. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think we should all be having some protein and fat with every meal. And then that will help regulate your blood sugar, your blood glucose. Yeah. And it makes us feel more full as well. So then we're not getting the cravings as well. If you're getting the cravings, then what you have eaten in the meal beforehand hasn't been in the right proportions.
Yeah, good. I mean, I like you now because I believe that too. So what would be the easiest, simplest ways to explain what estrogen is doing? I know there's copious amounts of material out there on this, but I find that some of it's a little, like it's aimed at my level and been in health for a long time. What's the simplest way?
Yeah, I think
it's like a naughty child.
Yeah, it's like a naughty child, and it's like a roller coaster in our 40s. So it's just up and down like this. And that's why you get the symptoms. That's why you get the estrogen dominant symptoms like irritability, your moodiness, or low moods, or the heavy bleeding as well, because the estrogen, when it's high, will increase our endometrial lining. It becomes thicker and thicker and thicker. And then when we shed, we bleed more blood than what we normally would, maybe in our younger years. So that's the simplest way I describe what is happening with estrogen in our 40s, but gradually it will decline until our ovaries are not producing much estrogen at all. And that's when we get the things like hot flushes.
And I remember interviewing a girlfriend of mine that's a naturopath. This was years ago too, and she was talking about what we did, just specifically menopause. And that just reminds me of that. She was talking about how the adrenal glands start taking over the production of the hormones that we're supposed to have.
Yeah, so when our ovaries stop working, then it all relies on our adrenal glands to produce estrogen and progesterone, but they don't produce as much as what our ovaries ever did. And then our adrenal glands also produce cortisol, the stress hormone. So that's why it's really important to manage stress prior to perimenopause, because our adrenal glands are really going to take up a lot of the slack of the ovaries. But if our adrenal glands are busy making cortisol, they're not going to worry about making progesterone and estrogen. And those women, the women that are really stressed out or have had a lot of stress in their life or have had trauma, unfortunately, are the ones that suffer the biggest symptoms.
Is there anything else that you think makes the symptoms bad in general? I mean, I just know my mum, for example, she won't mind me saying this, has been on the contraceptive pill since she was, since it came out, 20, 30, I don't know. But I know that as soon as she went into menopause, she then went on, she obviously hasn't had a real cycle. So I don't know what symptoms she was really addressing. So she went on to HRT or whatever the synthetic version of that is. But what are some other things that we're doing apart from being stressed that might make it a little bit more exaggerated, that make the symptoms a bit more exaggerated, that we could do to, what could we not do? What can we stop doing? That's 6 questions at once.
And I think you've got something in mind, but alcohol's not great for women in our 40s. It's really not. It stresses out the liver so much. And when we've got alcohol in our system, our liver is focused on metabolizing the alcohol out before hormones, drugs, pesticides, chemicals, everything. So then we're not metabolizing estrogen. We're not clearing estrogen out of our body because it's focused on alcohol. So if you're really symptomatic, I would say stop alcohol. Just stop it. It's the best thing that you can do. If you're not really symptomatic, then, you can probably afford to have a wine or two a week, not a night, a week.
So we don't turn off. No, there are other things that you could do.
Yeah, and then eating fiber as well. Fiber will really help keep our microbiome diverse. So the more diverse our microbiome is, the good gut bacteria in our gut, we want a certain type of bacteria called the estrobilome. So they're specific bacteria that will metabolize estrogen. So if we don't have those in adequate proportions, then we have trouble getting estrogen out of our body as well. So super important to have fiber to help us metabolize and excrete estrogen out.
Can I ask a question, Miss? When you say fiber, what do you mean? Should I get that orange drink? Oh no, that's, whatever that orange drink is at the supermarket that people drink for fiber.
Supermarket people.
No, that people buy at the supermarket, not the supermarket people. I'm not discriminating against people who go to the supermarket. I have to go there too to buy toilet paper, but only 1 packet at a time now. I've got in trouble.
Veggies.
Okay.
Veggies are the best source, but you've got fruit and you've got whole grains as well. But vegetables are the best source of fiber for perimenopause. So it's lower carbohydrate as well, particularly your cruciferous veggies like your cabbage, your broccoli, your collie, your Brussels sprouts.
Oh, yeah, I had a coach for a while actually, and she was trying to get me to, on her food plan was 2 cups of breaded cabbage.
Yep.
And other various cruciferous vegetables each meal. So 5 times.
Yeah, each meal is a lot. I would say at least 2 meals a day. Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? It's like wherever people are at, if you just incrementally change 1 thing a week or 2 things, or guys, if you're listening to this and you think, I can't not do the alcohol. Okay, well, I'll do the vegetables. Okay, I can't do it at 3 meals a day, but I can do 3 meals a week extra on top of. Tiny little things make a difference, don't they? What are some of the things that you think actually make the biggest difference in regards to that? Reducing symptoms.
I think all those things. I think alcohol is a big one. I think stress management is really important. I think not snacking and having your 3 regular meals with lots of fiber and good quality sleep as well. So if we're not sleeping well, then that makes us more irritable. It also increases some other hormones. I'm just going to mention ghrelin and leptin, which will make us feel not satisfied when we eat and always hungry. So sleep throws those hormones out as well.
That was me after having Stella. I just
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of women, when they've had kids and they're sleep deprived, and that can go on and on and on for years as well, it really does mess with our hormones. So, you know, we're in such a Netflix culture, particularly at the moment in lockdown number 3 in Victoria.
500, thanks.
But it's so important to get off your screens because it emits blue light. Blue light will increase cortisol at night, which we don't want to be high at night, and it blocks melatonin, the sleep hormone, as well. So it's doing the 2 things we don't want it to do. So off screens at night, it's all about behavioral change. Read a book in bed or meditate.
Actually, that's definitely a habit that I'm going to implement, is the blue screen thing.
Yeah. Or if you have to be for work, sometimes I have to be on calls or Zooms, I wear the blue blocking glasses.
Every screen does that now for you anyway, doesn't it? Like, and by the way, there's a program I used to use ages ago on a computer called F.Lux.
Yeah.
Which takes the blue out.
Yeah, but it's not, you really want these ones. Just got them on my bed. You want the
awesome.
you don't have to get the big ones like that, but you want the red that will block out blue light spectrum completely at night when the sun goes down. And then when it's not nighttime, you can wear just the clear ones. But the computer screen's not enough, actually. You need the glasses.
Oh, geez, they look like men at work glasses.
I know, they're not.
All right, but I'm glad we had this conversation. I've actually got a screen open on my computer to purchase a pair.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just reading. Anything else you want to say? Like, okay, obviously there's symptoms. How do we know? There's a massive list of symptoms. Do you want to just expand on a couple of them again? I know you went over them in the beginning, but now that's on the other video that just stopped. So what are some symptoms to know that you're going through perimenopause?
So periods are changing in your 40s. So you've just noticed some changes. Either they're getting shorter or they're getting longer or they're getting heavier. Then there's some sort of hormonal imbalance going on. Weight gain, particularly around the mid area, and you haven't changed anything, haven't changed your exercise, haven't changed your eating, your stress hasn't changed, but you feel like you're putting on weight around that area. And then sleeping patterns have changed as well. So waking up a few more times in the middle of the night, or waking up and not being able to get back to sleep. Feeling tired throughout the day for no particular reason, just getting more and more and more tired. Feeling irritable, particularly before your period and around ovulation as well, or mood changes in general. And then the hot flushes, which normally happens later in perimenopause, more towards menopause, but it can happen anytime, and that's indicating lower estrogen.
Wow, they're all really signs, aren't they, to just stop, tune in. What you were doing is not working anymore. Yeah, definitely to start to listen, hopefully. And it may just loud signs though, aren't they?
Yeah. Some of them are just subtle, and sometimes you just need to tweak a few things that you've been maybe in the habit of having a glass of wine every night. Maybe you just need to pull that back. Maybe you just need to go to bed an hour earlier, and things will rebalance a little bit. That's all it might take for some women. Other women might have to do a little bit more.
How do you know? What are some examples of people that you've worked with? I mean, you don't have to give their names, but Cindy was doing this and then she changed this and now this is where she is. Have you got any stories like that?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess generally just talking about some of these symptoms that women come in with, and I've suggested making some of these general changes, and then the symptoms go away or they decrease. Now, not everyone is like that, unfortunately. Like, I do have quite a few women who come in and they're flooding. Their periods are so heavy, so they need extra support, and that extra support might be in the way of supplements or bioidentical hormones, which I work with integrative doctor who can prescribe that as well, because sometimes we do all the natural stuff in the world, but in our 40s our ovaries are not as responsive, they're not working as well, so they do need extra support in the form of bioidentical hormones. I would never suggest somebody go on synthetic hormones. We've got the bioidentical hormones, which is exactly the same molecular structure as the hormones that we make. And that can just help the transition so we don't have these awful symptoms that we have to deal with.
Oh, sounds good. I'll order some of those.
I'm on it. I'm on bioidentical progesterone.
Ah, okay. And then can you explain what that does?
So personally, my symptoms were, I'm 44. My symptoms were I was getting heavier periods. I've never had heavy periods in my life. And I was getting really like just itchy the week before my period. And my mood's always been like this. And I was just like, oh, this feeling is awful. So I did the Dutch comprehensive hormone test, the fancy test that I do on everybody. And some blood work as well. And I had postmenopausal levels of progesterone.
Meaning there was none there, or there was too much there?
None, hardly any. And that's from my history of being an athlete and over exercising and partying and doing a whole lot of stuff that wasn't really supportive for my hormones in my younger years. So I just take some bioidentical progesterone in my luteal phase, and I describe it as it felt like somebody came up and gave me a big hug. Like it just took the edge off and made my periods lighter as well.
Oh, and so that's the benefit of testing, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to test, because there's some women that have come to me and I'm like, you've got low progesterone. They've got all the symptoms and we've tested and they actually haven't had low progesterone. They've just had really high estrogen. So we wouldn't give progesterone to those ladies who their levels are normal. We would work on estrogen clearing instead.
Okay, so that's what the testing figures out for you in a very basic way.
Yeah. It also shows us the stress picture. So the Dutch test, the fancy hormone test that I do, shows us what cortisol does over a 24-hour period. Cortisol is the stress hormone. And then we can tell how stressed the adrenal glands are. Do you have low cortisol? Do you have high cortisol? Is it an inverted pattern? Is it a backwards pattern?
Just seeing if there's any questions on that.
Just on supplements, I guess some good supplements that people can take. And I always recommend taking practitioner brand supplements, not just ones from the supermarket, because they've got fillers in them and they're not good quality. So they can actually make you feel worse if you're taking supermarket brand supplements. But a general one is magnesium is great. Magnesium glycinate in particular, because it will absorb into your cells more. So that will promote sleep and help support the nervous system. And then I might put somebody on estrogen clearing herbs. I won't go into details of what they are, but just to make sure that the liver is getting support so your body is clearing estrogen out. And then I might put you on something called Vitex, which will help stimulate your ovaries to produce more progesterone, although that gets a bit harder in our late 40s because our ovaries aren't wanting to do that anymore. And then B vitamins is another important one, because we burn through our B vitamins in times of stress, so we need to replenish them every day.
Oh, yeah, I need to go to the shop to get some more of that, but they've closed. So.
And then there's some other ones like inositol, cinnamon, and chromium, which will support insulin sensitivity. So if you're taking those regularly as well, they can help with weight resistance.
Oh, it's a big picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess people could start with, one of the things that I was always recommend to take was quite a lot of fish oil too. What do you think about that and good fats?
Definitely good fats. I mean, good fats are going to keep us more satiated and going to keep that blood sugar smooth and regulated. And fish oil is very anti-inflammatory. So anything that's going to help reduce inflammation is going to be a good thing.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel human without it. I'm just having a look.
Yeah, and exercise. So doing strength training, resistance training in particular, super important in our 40s. Because a lot of the time our testosterone, which is another main hormone that we have, would start declining in our 40s as well. Actually, by the time we're 40, our testosterone is almost halved. So there's kind of two pictures I see with testosterone. Either it's like bottoming out, there's no testosterone left, or it's actually high, and that's you can tell these women because they're starting to get acne, and they've never had acne before in their life. And in their 40s, they're getting acne because their testosterone is having surges. Yeah, so they might need some help with testosterone clearing or guiding the testosterone over to a different pathway.
Over to the muscle pathway.
Over to the less androgenic pathway. Yes, but if you've got low testosterone, then strength training will help boost that up. It also helps with bone density and weight loss.
That's actually what I was about to ask you, was about testosterone. Oh, everything. Do you know what? Everything you've mentioned, though, when people become more healthy, weight loss is a fabulous side effect, isn't it? So they might be thinking, well, what's this belly weight gain? Okay, it's a sign of insulin sensitivity.
Resistance.
Resistance, sorry. It's not insulin sensitivity. Just insulin. No, because everybody's got that too. All right, you've talked about supplements. What about, and you talked about your fiber, what about your liver? Is there anything that you can expand on there? Because I think everybody knows, well, drinking affects my liver, but that's just too bad, or I am willing to give it up. They're either in one of the two camps. What else can people do for their liver?
I think alcohol and clean eating are the main things, but you can also look at something called xenoestrogen exposure. So that's a big word. Basically, it means the products that you use on your body, are they just products that you get from the supermarket? If they are, they've probably got xenoestrogens in them. So when you put them all over your skin, they will absorb into your bloodstream and they will mess with your estrogen levels. Making you more inflamed and clogging up your liver as well. So your liver's trying to metabolize these like estrogen compounds. So being mindful of your cosmetics and your toiletries and even your cleaning products to reduce your xenoestrogen exposure. And
would you say the same thing for perfume?
Perfume's the worst. It's got like 300 different chemicals or something ridiculous like that. So go more with essential oils if you want to use a perfume. But yeah, perfumes are terrible. Anything with a fragrance in it that's not natural is not great.
I'm just going to make this as a podcast and send it to my partner. Because he said to me, this was ages ago, like years ago, he said, oh, blah, 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 I've been doing X, Y, Z now. And I looked at him like this. I said, oh, where did you hear that? He said, oh, this doctor said it on a podcast. I said, didn't you hear that? Have you heard that before? He said, no, what do you mean? I said, I'm pretty sure I said that to you about 5 years ago.
What about perfumes?
I can't remember what it was about, but because somebody said it on a podcast, you know.
Oh, yes. It's
right. Saying it where it's like,
truth.
Didn't hear that.
Yes.
It's not a podcast. So
everything on a podcast is true.
That's right. And fiber, we've talked about vegetables, we've talked about reducing xenoestrogens, your lifestyle, nutrition, supplements.
Yep. Water intake is really important. So we all hear the 2 liters, get to 2 liters a day. Well, yeah, we should be getting to 2 liters a day because that will help our lymphatic system move all the toxins around, and it will also help our liver detoxify and metabolize efficiently. So I like people to start the day with a large glass of warm water and lemon juice or apple cider vinegar, just to flush the liver out.
And then can I also add to that it should definitely be filtered water, right? Not tap water, because that's also full of chemicals and xenoestrogens and heavy metals and chlorine and fluoride and all that other bad stuff that just adds excessive load to everything, plus heavy metals, plus other stuff and pesticides that you just really don't know what's in there. And I know Melbourne's got the cleanest water in Australia, but it's because the chlorine levels are the highest in Australia, and you can see that on Yarra Valley Water website.
But if you taste tap water compared to filtered water, there's a massive taste difference. But yeah, you're right, definitely 100% filtered water, because the other thing that is in tap water are pathogens and parasites. So I do a lot of gut testing as well, comprehensive gut testing. And a lot of the time I will find certain infections and parasites in our water supply. So we need to filter.
The chlorine's not even killing those fellas.
No, sometimes not. No, they're really hard to kill.
Oh.
Yeah.
And is that a stool test? Is that what you're referring to?
That's a stool test. Yeah.
And is it a different stool test to the one that the GP would do?
Yeah, so the GP just does a really basic one, which is good to go and get that done. But if you still have gut symptoms after doing that, I would recommend getting a comprehensive gut test to rule out parasites, bacteria, yeast, see how you're absorbing, digesting, metabolizing food, have a look at your beneficial bacteria to really get a good insight into what is going on there. Because if your gut's not working properly, then the rest of your body can't be working properly. And in relation to perimenopause, if your gut is in dysbiosis, there's too much bad bacteria to good bacteria, you won't be metabolizing estrogen properly.
There's so many things to look at, isn't there?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you look at with clients? I mean, obviously it's everything that we've spoken about. That's why you know to address these things anyway. But what are some of the things that you look at with clients in the first couple of weeks of seeing them? Because that's the stuff that's going to be in your course, right?
Yeah, so I do a full case history, really in depth. I talk to them about their lifestyle, past and present, their nutrition, their sleep, their stress management. I really just get a picture of what their life, what their journey of their life has been like up until this point to try to understand why they are having these symptoms. Because everyone's different. Everyone gets to the place that they are in a different way. And then it really helps me work out what direction we're going to go in with the treatment plan and what testing. So what testing you might do is different to what testing somebody else might do, depending on your history and your symptoms.
Okay, interesting. So it still has to be tailored. What are some, if they don't do the testing, if people don't do the testing, what are some simple things? Is there a simple list of ways that you address things with people? I know it's all individual as well.
It is individual, but the general things are nutrition, sleep, lifestyle, reduce alcohol, exercise. I know it sounds really simple, and there's definitely, things to do under those topics, but we just need to dial in a bit more in our 40s if we're symptomatic. If you're symptomatic, then things are out of balance. So, and people will say, well, what do I do? There's so much misinformation or so much information about nutrition. Like, do I do keto or do I do low carb or should I be vegan at the moment? And I think generally for women in their 40s, a lower carbohydrate, high fiber diet with good quality protein and fat at every meal is a good option.
It's so important to figure out what works for you, doesn't it? And do you find that people they'll get a result in a couple of weeks? If it's the right thing for them, then they'll get a result for a couple of weeks. In a couple of weeks, you don't have to wait 12 months. You shouldn't be on a supplement for 12 months before you feel a result if it's the right thing. I'm always of that school of thinking. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, everyone's different. Generally, if we're trying to reduce inflammation, which it is, like I will pretty much always get wheat, gluten and dairy out of people's diets to reduce inflammation in their body, then people start feeling better straight away. And then that's why I do the testing as well, because it gives me a clear picture of what is going on with your hormones exactly. So then I can say, okay, we need to take this supplement for that. We need to take this supplement for that. We need to take this out of your diet and we need to put this in your diet. So then estrogen is heading down the preferred pathway. Testosterone is heading down the right pathway. I can really get almost to the correct treatment plan for you quicker with the testing.
Definitely. Actually, just on the estrogen and the pathway, I know that I don't know if we can say the C word, that you're a big one for looking at the estrogen pathway around this time of life, because it tends to be women in menopause that are, have high spike in breast cancer numbers.
Yeah, so it's not used as a diagnostic tool in identifying cancer, but it can definitely, this is a Dutch test I'm talking about, tell you whether you're higher risk of getting a certain type estrogen sensitive cancer. If we test and we see your estrogen is heading down the 4-hydroxy pathway, it's a bit of a technical term, but down that pathway because it oxidizes and turns into free radicals, causing potentially cancerous cells. So when we see that we can change, we can guide that to the preferred pathway. Not saying that it's necessarily going to stop you getting cancer once we do that, but just indicates your risk when we do that test.
Interesting. Well, I'm sold. I definitely want to have one. Is there anything else that you want to say to women that, I don't know, maybe do you find that the clients, by the time they come to see you, they're people that are looking around for answers, that have seen the GP, that have taken medicine from the GP, or are they not the see the GP kind of people, or is it a mix?
Yeah, all types. So I see women who have gone to the GP, they're like, I'm not feeling right, I'm feeling terrible, what can I do? And their options have been surgery or the Mirena or some other oral contraceptive pill, and they don't want to go down that path, or they've gone down that path and it didn't work for them, they felt worse, so they come and see me. Or some people haven't even gone to the doctor yet, they come to see me first. And yeah, they wanted to treat it naturally. They just want to understand what's going on, and they want to see if there is anything they can do. And there is, like, it really does make a massive difference just making some of these lifestyle, nutrition, diet, exercise changes with the right supplements as well. But then I do work with the integrative doctor, and if needed, we will use the bioidenticals if we feel like that's right for that person.
Yeah, it's so good that you've got her by your side.
Yeah, and we do comprehensive testing along the way, and we monitor along the way to check their levels, to check the pathways the whole time. Yeah. Yeah, but just, I guess, that women don't have to suffer. Like, I really have some women come to me in tears, and they feel like that this is it for them. This is how they're going to be, but it doesn't have to be like that. There are definitely things that we can do. And then on the other spectrum, peri-menopause isn't all like bad news. Like, a lot of the time I'm promoting the bad things that happen in your 40s and the symptoms that you get. It's not all bad. Like, how good is it being in you're 40, aren't you?
Yeah, 42.
Like, there are positives to it. Like, how much, I feel much more grounded than what I've ever felt in my life, and I'm in a good place with like family and kids and relationships. It's just, unfortunately, our hormones are a bit like this sometimes. And if we manage that, then everything else can be amazing in our 40s.
We're just amazing. Women are just amazing. Yes, on the other side of breakdowns and breakthroughs, and yeah, you definitely get the payoff based on how hard the thing is that you get to go through or feel, etc.
Yeah.
So guys, if you want any information on working with Mel, obviously send her a message. You can do one-on-one stuff with her. I know she's starting a program that she hasn't done before, and she's doing it in a group format, and you can do one-on-one through that as well. So the details for that will be somewhere around this video. If you're watching the replay of this and they're not there, just shoot either one of us a message, because it's going to be launching soon. That's all I can say. It's currently the 15th of February. Who knows what day it is right now, because we're in lockdown. So it's the middle of February. So it'll be launching really soon, and you can VIP upgrade, go get all the tests and all the rest of it done, or you can just go through the course and get all the help from Mel anyway, and do the standard version or the gold-plated version, the peri-menopause version. So that's not even a thing, because we're just diagnosing everything, whereas it's just signs and symptoms to slow down and take care of us. And unfortunately, what worked in the last decade won't work anymore. Women are amazing, aren't they? Men just like have a midlife crisis and that's it. They have one. We have this every month.
Or nothing, or they don't have anything at all. Their hormones just start going. Janelle's like,
yeah. So we die and are reborn and recreate ourselves every month.
Yeah.
But it is. It's
exciting.
Reflection to myself is always, it's not the same as it was a couple of years ago, which is the whole, even trying to get your body back after you have a baby. It's not the same. You're not the same. Life's not the same. Situations are not the same. That's massive recreation, isn't it? But I think we do a mini version of that after we have a period. Sorry if you're not into recreating your body after you have a baby. You don't need to be either, by the way. It's nothing to do with it. I think we just feel like you've got to recreate yourself, right? And now heading into this, just trust that it doesn't matter what's going on. You're still you. Because I think people feel like they're losing themselves, don't they? Because they're losing control.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. You got anything else that you want to say?
No, just yeah, send me a message if you're interested in one-on-one or the group program. It's going to be really helpful having everybody in the group, on the Facebook group, asking questions, and everybody can answer each other's questions. I can answer each other's questions just for support as well.
Yeah, I'm sure do lots of Facebook Lives in there and help you with everything anyway. So you don't necessarily have to be using her doctor for referrals, but it's very advantageous because it'll be like at a quarter of the price of what it would be to see her one-on-one anyway, because she can do online consults now, can't you? You do them on Zoom, don't you? Something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So anywhere around the world. Awesome, guys. Send us a message if you've got any questions. Just know that you don't have to be sitting with your symptoms and thinking that there's no other hope other than that you're going to be like this for the rest of your life, because obviously you're not. And you do get to look after your body because you are going to be with it for a while, hopefully. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.